Hello, everybody. Welcome to Small Town Johnstown. I'm your host, Nick, with my other host.
Tenny.
And we're here today with Tyler. How you doing today, Tyler?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you for coming on. So, Tyler, let's get into some of your work. I mean, it's all volunteer work, you said, when we were talking a little bit before this. So, what do you do?
We were chatting beforehand, trying to chart out our course for this. I'm like, it's all volunteer related. So professionally, I'm the program director of the Court-Appointed Special Advocate Program of the Laurel Highlands, but everybody knows the acronym there, CASA, a lot better. So CASA, the Laurel Highlands. We're a nonprofit program under Beginnings, Inc. And that's what I do, like 8 to 4, Monday to Friday. And then in my free time, I volunteer in a different way. I'm really involved in Stackhouse Park. I'm the vice chair on the board of directors currently. So work keeps me busy and the park keeps me busier.
So tell us a little bit about Beginnings and the CASA program that you do.
Sure. So I'll give Beginnings a little bit of love first, too, because they're the main nonprofit umbrella agency we belong to. The slogan, motto at Beginnings is to give children the best start they can. So we work primarily with a lot of like preschool age kids, kids with developmental delays are involved in the early intervention program. They have, parents as teachers or the community health worker program, all that work with young children and families. And then, like I said, I'm the director of the Court-Appointed Special Advocate or CASA program. And our mission is to recruit and support community volunteers who are going to advocate in the courtroom for children who've experienced abuse or neglect. So it's a really interesting volunteer opportunity, There's 3 of us on staff there with the program, but we're managing a roster of about 35 volunteers from all over Cambria, Somerset counties, and a little bit beyond. We've got some people on the fringes as well. All there just to provide, eyes and ears of the court, kind of be a support for children in the courtroom. It's part of a nationwide nonprofit network. It's actually my favorite little trivia tidbit about CASA. People always ask what's the history of CASA? Where is it? I said, well, it's everywhere in America right now, but North Dakota. So 49 states and DC have at least one CASA program. There's about 25 programs across the state here. Yeah, and so that's our main mission. So I love opportunities like this. Any chance I get out to, a big part of the job and part of the work is getting out to talk to people and meet people and spread the word. So I love opportunities like this to, I can talk CASA especially until I'm blue in the face. So this is nothing for me.
So what got you so passionate about CASA and helping the unfortunate through trials and stuff like that? Was it a young age thing? Like maybe you had some disadvantages growing up that you see yourself with these kids, or...
Not necessarily. I kind of, looking back now, it kind of has come together for me in the last couple of years. I had a teacher in high school that I was really close with, and he was the Key Club advisor, and that's what got me involved in community service and giving back. And I was like, there's a ton of opportunities for this, and I really like it. But then my path to the actual job is even more a little wackier and a little... It definitely wasn't a straight line for me. There's some twists and turns and maybe some U-turns along the way.
U-turns?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, everybody's got a story, right? But like I said, we're at Beginnings, and I was working with Beginnings for a year first before I came to CASA through the AmeriCorps program. If anybody knows what that is, it's like a national service thing. Okay, it's volunteer. You work with nonprofits. It's heavily in schools, but I ended up there at Beginnings, and I was doing, their marketing, social media, outreach, that kind of stuff for a year through AmeriCorps, which is something I decided to do after college. I was a history major who realized towards the end of my degree, I have no desire to teach anymore. So I was like, I got to get creative here.
That happens to a lot of people. Yeah. By the end of college, it's like, well, I don't like this anymore.
For sure. I went in, I'm going to be a professor. I can't wait. And by my 3rd year, I was like, I am so burned out on this.
Yeah.
I was like, I couldn't wait to get in the job force, which is such a weird thing to say, but I couldn't. But it wasn't going well because I hadn't really prepared myself really well. And that's just being honest now. So I signed up for the AmeriCorps program. That's how I ended up at Beginnings. And that's how I was introduced to CASA, because it was one of the programs I was working with. And it just kind of worked out that right at the end of my AmeriCorps year and the end of my term, an entry position in CASA came up, and they're like, we can't make your AmeriCorps thing a full-time job. I'm like, I get that. Like, you should try this. They're like, we think you'd be good at this. I'm like, okay. And that was 7.5 years ago.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, if anything, I think what I really credit is, like I mentioned, it's volunteer based and there's a big roster of volunteers. And I got to meet a lot of those people, just everyday folks from the community, and just seeing what they do and how they find the time to do it and the energy to do it. I was like, I want to be around these people more. It's just good people that I'm happy to be around and connect with and learn from and grow with. So that's pretty much how I got there.
Nice.
So what kind of lessons have you learned from these people? What have you learned in you said 7.5 years with the CASA program?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. So there's one that really, really sticks with me. We had done a outreach social media thing a couple years back where we wanted to feature the volunteers, and we had them hold up like an eraser board with, why do I volunteer? And the one fella that's been a volunteer with us for a long time, his message was, it's about being intentional. And that one just really resonated with me because, I've talked to him more about it, and he talked about how it's like there's so much of a need just to be out and help in general. And if I don't pick something and make the effort, then I'm just never going to do it. So make sure you do. And that's kind of just been my thing. And as I've been in the role and grown and learned more about myself, kind of processed my own journey and realized I had a pretty good childhood and, a fairly stable home growing up, but nobody's life is perfect and everybody has experiences. For me, especially, my dad died unexpectedly when I was 11, so that's a really traumatic event for, no matter what. And just realizing, how things in your childhood can affect you and how to move past those. So that's just kind of the launching point for it, realizing what some of these situations are out there. And some of these kids, like me growing up, I had family supports and friends and relatives that were there for me. Not everybody has that. And, whether we're talking kids or adults or anything. And that's kind of what really keeps me going, is knowing that, a lot of the kids on our caseloads really need these kind of people. And to be able to match them with a nice, trusted adult like that who can hopefully make a big difference for them or be part of a group or a team of supports that make a difference. I mean, if I had to pick a reason that gets me out of bed every morning and keeps doing it, that would be it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get to be that role model for these kids and their little light that really can get them to change their lives better and maybe not go through a dark hole. We interviewed Quan Britt a couple weeks ago, and he kind of does the same thing with the Goodwill program, shows people there is a better path than the one that you might see or the quicker grab. And if you do good things and you have a passion for it, that other people can reflect on that and it trickles down, like he said in the podcast episode. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just like you said, a little bit of effort can sometimes go a long way. And it's really important just to, whether you're helping or in whatever way you can. I'm here today just talking about it, and hopefully you guys have a lot of great listeners. I know I've been listening to a bunch of episodes already and enjoying it. So hopefully somebody else or a couple other people hear it and, it inspires them in any way.
Yeah.
So do you feel like you need a college degree to really get into what you do, or what do you think are some of the most important aspects for somebody to start and get into some of the volunteering and programs like that?
Yeah, so volunteer-wise, on that side of it, there are a couple brief requirements to be a CASA volunteer. College degree is not one of them. One of the taglines we always say is CASA volunteers come from all walks of life. So during my time with the program, I've seen a wide array. One of the basic requirements is you have to be 21. So we've had 21-year-old college students up to 75-year-old retirees. One of our volunteers, he works with welding in one of the local manufacturing companies. Another fellow's a retired photographer. We have retired nurses, retired school teachers, people who work in nonprofits, people who own businesses. As long as you're old enough and don't have a criminal record and can, get the clearances necessary.
Yeah.
The only other thing that's really required is, you got to have a little bit of free time and the passion to help people. But it's wonderful to see all the time, because I think Johnstown, obviously, I'm born and raised in the city. I stayed here intentionally. I like it here.
Yeah.
I know that's not always a popular opinion.
Not the popular opinion at all.
For some reason, whatever. I disagree with it, but that's probably
to each their own.
Yeah, that's probably another podcast. But I mean, there's people that want to help and give back in this community, and I'm always, it's always a pleasant surprise at realizing how many people like that there are out there.
So you say you've been doing this for about 7.5 years. Has there been someone some stories or some kids they've seen really change their lives from the volunteering and stuff that you guys have done? Somebody that's really was down bad and then risen up?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of, just confidentiality-wise, gotta.
Sorry.
No, but I'm really good at the storytelling aspect of it, and I can spin these things by now. And I mean, we've seen some of the worst. I mean, there's definitely been, cases that we wind up with, which are things that are in the news. Like every once in a while, my mom will text me a local news story. She's like, "What do you know about this one?" I'm like, can't say. So and I mean that happens too, but honestly, like my favorite things to see is it's like CYS gets a bad rap, and we work really closely with them. Every case we have starts as a CYS case, and I know a lot of those folks there, and my hat goes off to them every day because they do so much with so little.
For sure.
And their goal, I know there's these conspiracies out there that CYS exists to take kids away, and they get a nice end of the year bonus if they take enough away, which I mean,
I've heard the opposite too, that CYS just doesn't care about kids at all, and everyone has very strong opinions about that.
They sure do, and I just know from all the folks I've met over there with my over the years that what they really want to do is work with families and support families and make them better family units, and those are my favorites. For a real positive one, we had a case pretty recently with a little kid, and the dad didn't know he was the dad at first. Like, he just didn't know. It wasn't even identified. And so he ended up, finding out, and he's like, okay, what do I got to do for this? What do I got to do for my kid? What do I got to do to take care of my child? And it was, I mean, he went from like living like the total single bachelor life to remodeling his house, taking classes to be a better parent, being so involved. And it's like the day we went to court with them to close out services, it was just such a beautiful bond between, father and child, and they were so well. He had a huge support system with them, other family and friends, and we get those all the time. Those stories probably don't maybe grab as much attention as the super tragic, super bad ones, but those are my stories. Those are my favorites. When we're going to court and CYS and us and the judge get to say, thanks, it was really great, but now I don't have to see you anymore because you're in that the family's in that much better of a place and everything's going not just good but great. And those are my favorite to see, honestly.
Yeah, and you don't see much of those at all. Typically, if someone out of the blue found out that they had a child, wouldn't want to step up right away like that. So that's really good that it is happening, even if it's not the news stories. There is that going on, at least a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Those headlines don't get nearly the same amount of clicks as the negative stuff or whatever we'll do.
Father
but I mean,
abandons child after.
Right. Yeah,
That's a national news thing, or also more of a local news thing? Because I feel like Johnstown, every time I click on an article, it's something crazy tragic happened. Oh, and here Johnstown goes again. So
I think it's just human nature in general that there's a part of the psyche that just wants to latch on to that stuff for whatever. I don't necessarily agree with it.
It's the drama TV shows, the reality TV has got us all addicted.
Pretty much. And I mean, it clearly works. I mean, I don't agree with it, and I don't care for it. I don't have cable, and I think I'm better off for it. It makes it a little harder to watch the Steelers at times, but I cope.
I feel like even if they do post positive things, then you look at the comments and people are just saying negative things about that positive thing.
That's true.
And it's just too much negativity being sprouted, even if you try to do something positive, which stinks. I'm sure if like they did post an article about the father stepping up, you would have seen like 50 million comments. Oh, well, it needs this, or he's just doing it for that, or something that people would always find a way to bicker about.
Yeah.
Sadly. And it drains out the positive story because then the negative comments become the story.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I agree. I mean, I didn't study psychology or any of that, so I don't fully understand it, but I just know that that's not for me. I'm going to steer clear of it, and I just try to, I try to spend less and less time online as possible. I'm not the best at it, I'll admit that too, but I try to steer clear of that.
I'm the worst at it.
Are you?
Yeah. I'm on Twitter just constantly.
I had to.
Or X, my bad, Elon.
Yeah, I had to end my very long relationship with that one. I'm just like, nope, can't do it. But they're all terrible anymore, being honest.
Yeah.
I mean, I like maybe Instagram the most because
it's more your friends.
It's my friends, and like as a hobby, like I do photography and take pictures, so it's a little more of a natural. And also, people just don't have as much space to put their words on there. It's easy to avoid some stuff.
Yeah, you have to click it to actually read what they want to say for the show more.
It's a little easier to scroll past on there.
Yeah.
So you said you do photography, not to switch from CASA and everything. So you say you kind of do photography. What do you like to do photography at around here?
Yeah, no, that's a great segue. Honestly, I'll always say this about Johnstown, especially not just Johnstown, but like our region in general, all around us. Especially like if you go south of here, like into Somerset, Westmoreland County, in the, what's called the Laurel Highlands region. I will always say, I've said this before, fall foliage in the Laurel Highlands is the best in the country, and anybody can come at me and fight me on that. I know New England and Maine and those places are gorgeous, gorgeous. Yeah, but go hang out like at Lynn Run State Park in the middle of October or something like that. It doesn't get any better.
Yeah, all the fall leaves and everything.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, honestly, I can't pick one place because there's, like, in my photography notebook and that, I just have options, between, the different parks that are around here, like to come up here today and meet with you guys. I had to drive past Lorraine Stony Creek Trails, which is a great new addition to town. They're doing really good work down there. I remember when that was just, an abandoned, amphitheater.
Oh, okay.
That one's a recent addition, and they're, super active, super involved, putting on events, and that's great. There's the Laurel Highlands hiking trail around here. So the mile marker 70, one end of it is on Hawes Pike. Like if you're heading out towards Pittsburgh, you can hop on there, hike that 70 miles. You'll end up down in Ohio Pile.
Oh, wow.
And there's shelters along the way, and that's a gorgeous, gorgeous trail. There's great parks.
How long does that take you usually to walk? 70 miles seems like a long distance.
I haven't done the whole trail in one through hike like that. I'm not. I don't know if
that sounds like at least a full day, maybe 2.
I'm not.
It's like a 5-day thing.
Yeah.
I'm not a tech camper, so I'll be out.
Yeah. I mean, I know it's really popular. I hike it a lot because that trailhead, like I mentioned, is only a couple minutes from my house. And I mean, I've been hiking on that trail since I was a teen. I've met people from all over the country on it. Like I know people come from all over to do that one. So it's really gorgeous. And there's, I like waterfalls too for photography. There's some really great ones around here. There's one like right on the Cambria-Somerset County line. It's called Yoder Falls. It used to be like super hidden. Now it's kind of some online blogs and that have put it out because it's really just like out there. Like there's no trail. It's not part of a park. You just kind of have to know it's there.
Yeah.
If you know, you know.
Yeah, and you're either hiking up a creek to get there or sliding down the hillside. So it depends on what mood I'm in that day when I get there as to what I'm doing. But that one's gorgeous. I mean, it's a blast. I mean, there's so much stuff. And then of course, Stackhouse Park, which is just an absolute gem in the middle here. And of course, I'm a little biased.
Just a tad.
I'm on the board at Stackhouse. And I help out there a lot. And it's actually my photography that got me involved because I used to just go and take pictures there for fun. And the one year they were doing a calendar fundraiser, and one of the board members reached out to me. They're like, you should really submit some pictures for this, man. I'm like, okay. And then the calendar came out, and I had 3 pictures in it.
That's awesome.
And I was like, okay, what else can I, like, I didn't know, like, I grew up 10 minutes from one of the entrances to the park, and I used it as a kid and a teenager and an adult all the time. I had no idea how it was set up or run or anything. Yeah. So I was like, tell me more. Like, what is this? And they're like, well, why don't you, like, we have an opening on the board. I'm like, okay, I'm in. So that's how I got involved there. And that's, like I said, kind of, if there's a theme for today, it's volunteerism, I guess. Because, I go to work and, and work with volunteers, and then I volunteer at the park when I can.
So what is that like being on the board for Stackhouse?
It's different, we have a pretty full and robust board, and the park does a lot of different things. So we have like people from the library and other nonprofits that put on programming for kids and different events and fundraisers, and we have people who are runners, which is not me either, and people who hike the trails. But it's just big group, all doing our best to work together and help out. And there's so much to do at the park and so much that happens at the park that it's important, just everybody pitches in kind of each in our own little lane, to whether it's, some folks who are really focused on just, keeping the park clear, and they have to make it out on the weekends. Oh, I heard a tree's down on this trail. We got to get down there and clear that. Or some folks are planning programming for families and kids and stuff like that. It's a lot of different stuff.
So how do you balance your time? That was a big thing with Mike because he volunteers and does a million different things. So how do you balance your time between work and your volunteerism?
I'd say I'm probably still like sorting that out too. I'm definitely not as busy as Mike Cook. I don't know how he does it either.
The busiest man I know.
Yeah, I don't understand. I don't understand it either. But
that
again,
man doesn't sleep.
He doesn't. He doesn't sleep.
Yeah, but I mean, luckily my job is a nonprofit job, especially. I kind of have the freedom to work when and where I want. It's not like I have to be not glued to a desk. I'm off doing other things like this, going to resource fairs and going out into the community and meeting people and doing interviews, and sometimes I'm in court. So, but that's still, it's pretty much a traditional Monday to Friday. So that leaves my weekend. So, I can slot some stuff in the evenings pretty well. And then a lot of times on the weekend is when I get out, probably end up at Stackhouse and stuff like that. We have board meetings in the evening and stuff. It's just, I do my best. There are still often days where I'm like, I need 3-4 more hours.
But we feel like that. We don't even do that much. We just feel like it's already 8:00.
No, exactly. I mean, I do my best and try to schedule stuff appropriately, but
it takes time. We're working on it
and
too.
Prioritization. And every once in a while I got to say, okay, like I got to stay home because I got stuff. I got a project or something here that needs finished.
Do you make sure you still take time for yourself to kind of have like your relaxation time at the end of the day?
Oh yeah, for sure. That's a big thing to me. My thing is always like, I work hard when I'm at work, and then when I'm done, I'm done. And it's like, the work.
We're almost too good at that.
I'm the best, they say.
I mean, I think it's important because I always think of like, the whole human approach is like, I got to take care of myself first before I can help others. So, if that does mean I need an hour or two in the evening where I'm just chilling on the couch with my dog and we're listening to an album or something, just nice and quiet, so I make sure to make time for that too in between events or going out places.
So you watch the Steelers when you can. You're not on social media as much, and you don't really have cable. Other than photography, what are some of your other hobbies and things that you like to do on your free time?
So I like music a ton. I'm not smart or gifted enough to be a musician, and I know that because I've tried. I've tried to play guitar, and I'm like, that doesn't work in my brain, but I still appreciate music. So I listen to music a lot, and that's like my wind down, and my dog is really active, so.
Is your dog a big music listener too?
He keeps his opinions to himself most of the time, but he is happy when, to hear something. I'll just take him for a walk and I'm like, I want to listen to this new album. I have way too many vinyl records at home, which of course, again, in Johnstown, I can't talk about music and vinyl and not shout out George's Song Shop.
Yeah.
Which
the
is
oldest vinyl record store in America.
Yeah, the oldest record store in America. That place is amazing.
We went there once because we used to live downtown. It had so many, every option, every vinyl I feel like in the world.
Yeah, I work right across the street from it, and I've worked downtown, so I work at Beginnings now. And before that, when I was in college and for about a year after, I worked at United Jewelers, which is on Main Street, which if I'm going to do small business shout outs while I'm on here, George's Song Shop, then also United Jewelers. They've been open for almost 110 years now.
Is that the one near Subway?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been there a few times.
Perfect. Great. Yeah. I mean, they're that wonderful, Johnstown local business. They've been open 110 years now.
There's a lot of very old businesses.
Yeah, Jewelers is open for almost 100, 200 years. They survived the flood.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And they've been owned by United has been owned by two families that whole time. So it's just a local family business. So that's cool. But George's downtown is, it's a gem. I have family that lives out in Arizona. My cousins were born out there. They grew up in Phoenix. My uncle and aunt were born here, but they moved away. So they were here last fall. So it was super cool to take them there. And they were like, what? They're used to bigger, Zia records and that out on the West Coast. I knew there was one of those right around the corner from their house. I've been there when I was out there. I was like, you guys got to come see this one.
Yeah.
And they're like, it's just so different.
Antique.
They were so enthralled by downtown Johnstown. They're like, parking is so easy. I'm like, you should stick around and say that. They were amazed
seriously.
that I was, because they grew up in Phoenix and in the suburbs, and it's
very hard.
That's suburban sprawl. Which ooh. But they were amazed that I was able to pull up on the street in front of the business I wanted to go to, parallel park, and be there.
Yeah.
That was foreign to them. I'm like, oh yeah, this is a different.
But everyone here is the parking is so awful. I hate it. And different world.
Oh, for sure.
It's because people haven't explored out of Johnstown a little bit.
I think so, yeah.
So they expect how things maybe were back in the day, and not you should go somewhere where it's a lot busier, and you'll see how hard parking is. Go to Pittsburgh, you gotta park in the other side of the bridge just to maybe get to some areas.
Oh, I know. Yeah. You go to a show at Console or something in Pittsburgh, you're paying $25 and you're still walking 3-4 blocks, which I'm like,
we're familiar with that.
We went to a Pirates game. Sadly, it's when her ankle was broken. We had to walk 3 or 4 blocks to go to the game.
Oh yeah,
we missed half the game.
Yeah. Pirates games are great and PNC's gorgeous, but there's no easy parking and none of it's
Absolutely
cheap.
Not.
Pirates games aren't as bad. You ever go to a Steeler game?
I want to eventually, but
I've only been to one. It was are you? I know you said you're a sports fan.
I'm an Eagles fan.
You're an Eagles fan.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a good thing I wasn't here a couple weeks ago then.
Yeah. Well, what do you mean? We won.
Well, it's good for you, I guess. But yeah. But if you remember, Steelers Ravens, which I
Yeah.
guess is apt for today, Christmas Day. Antonio Brown over the goal line.
Yeah,
That's the only Steeler
you
game.
went to that game.
Yeah, shout out to my buddy Chris who got me tickets for Christmas. He froze. I mean, this man was wearing a terrible, like 3 terrible towels as a scarf because he was freezing. I didn't care. I was having the time of my life.
Yeah. I would have been one that got to the shirt off, drinking the beer.
It was cold that day, but I was like, I don't know if I can ever even top this one now. So I've been, a little hesitant to go back.
I mean,
You've seen enough.
Yeah. I'm like,
it's a walk-off touchdown last second against your arch rivals.
Exactly. Like it doesn't get any
When the
better.
Steelers are still somewhat good.
Exactly. Yeah. They still had the killer bees back then.
Yeah,
so
the 4
It
bees.
was really fun. Yeah. Thanks for including Boswell on that all-pro.
You're welcome. You never missed a kick. I remember.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, thankfully, more and more people can come here. They can kind of see the beauty that is Johnstown, the available parking, the unique outside world that it is with the hiking and stuff. It just stinks that it's cold.
Right
Majority of the the seasons.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's funny, like I said, the whole reason I wanted to come and chat with you guys today is I'm here intentionally. I stuck around. I like it here. And I think Johnstown, and not just Johnstown, but the whole region, it's a beautiful, area. And I often I love talking to people. You can kind of tell when somebody's visiting, I think.
Yeah.
They're here for whatever reason. They're like, it's so nice. Like, I moved here and you guys have this, and this. I'm like, yes.
As compared to somebody that lives here, is like, this
There's
is all we
nothing
do.
to do.
I know. Yeah. That's the one I love too. When people are like, there's nothing to do around here. I'm like, then you're not trying. Because normally it's like, I want to go to this, but I don't have time to go to this. Or, shoot, I missed this event last weekend. There's always.
Yeah, that's me on Facebook. I'm always looking for events. There's always something going on.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's
a lot of concerts, a lot of...
There's different craft things. Like, there's so many different, art classes and stuff. Like, that's what I typically look for. There's different fitness classes. Like, there's all kinds of stuff to do.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah. And then, if you're into, again, the outdoor stuff again, I mean, like I said, talked about Stackhouse a little bit, and I know I mentioned, the Lorraine Park and Laurel Highlands hiking trail, and that's just a small sample size. I know there's probably different other trails and stuff that I'm...
Ghost Trail? Went to the Ghost Town
Oh,
Trail.
yeah, yes, exactly. The Ghost Town Trail is just huge and a great project. And right over the border in, Indiana County, there's Buttermilk Falls, which is awesome.
I went to Hickston.
Oh, Hingston, yeah. I used to fish there when I was a kid.
I do want to fish there. Look, because you pull up right there and just throw your
Yeah,
rod
I mean,
in.
if you like any of that stuff, I mean, you like to, fish, hike, anything like that. I mean, you can go find anything to do. I grew up in a family, they hunt and fish a lot. And there's always, I mean, I have my one uncle, he lives to hunt. He's been retired for years now. And it's just, it's like you can't get a hold of him most weekends of the year because he's in his tree stand or something. So, there's something for everybody.
I feel like it's maybe went away from it, but it's slowly coming back for a lot of things for people to do. Like, a lot of businesses are starting back up now. Like, Redemption Fitness just started. A lot of the other crafts and things. I mean, maybe they're going on for a while, but I feel like now it's more...
It's picking up.
It's slowly getting there because a lot of people are wanting to branch out and do their own thing and really try.
Yeah, there's a lot of younger people, especially on the show, that have just kind of started their own businesses. They got sick of working, and they realized that they could work for themselves, and that's what they're doing.
Or they couldn't get in their profession, so like us, that we just kind of start up their own thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a ton of potential. You guys are rattling off new businesses, and and then in my head that has me thinking of other ones. It's like I mentioned United Jewelers. I started working downtown there probably 13, 14 years ago now. Back then, and I'll be honest too, I think I've laid the groundwork as I'm a positive Johnstown person over the last half hour that we've been chatting. But back then, when I started working downtown back then, there were people downtown 8 to 5 Monday to Friday.
Yeah.
That was it. All the businesses, the ones I've talked about, what you guys just mentioned. I think now you go downtown outside of business hours, it's busier.
Yeah.
Between all the restaurants, Balance and Stonebridge and what's that burger place by the park? Sweet Shop or the Sweet Spot?
Yeah.
I honestly haven't been there, but I've never heard a bad thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
I like the onion rings are really good.
Are they?
Yeah.
I've heard the burgers are great, and then the stuff they do over at the State Theater, which is open again. I mean, there's and I'm just talking about right downtown. I mean, and you get into any of the surrounding municipalities.
We just wish that they stayed open a little bit later. We do feel like they kind of close because when we get off at work at 4, it's like, oh, we literally have an hour to go down there and get some stuff. We want to get some stuff, and we gotta go home because. So we just kind of wish. And we know we understand it's a small business, and it's mostly like the owners are working for these businesses. They're not just off somewhere.
It's just tough to support small businesses when they are open 8 to 4, 9 to 5, or whatever it is.
Yeah, 8 to 6, and it's like
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think a lot of them are getting better too. Like I mentioned, I think downtown is getting more and more. So it's just the more people come out and show up more, and they realize there's value in staying open. But
Yeah.
you know, I mean, yeah, it's been a slow improvement, and we talked about like those hot button topics a little bit already. And downtown Johnstown's definitely one of them. But
Yeah.
I'm down there.
the majority of the time.
I mean, at least 4 to 5 days a week when I go into the office, which is most days. Plus, I usually end up down there on the weekends for something too.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so I'm there all the time. I love it. You know, I think it's great.
And I remember when, I'm not from here, so and I heard a lot of bad rep about downtown Johnstown. But when we lived there, it was nice. We walked around pretty late,
But all
safely.
our friends are like, it's so ghetto, it's so dangerous.
Yeah, you're walking around late at night. I'm like,
We had
yeah,
friends
I think I'm
refuse to
fine.
park in front of our apartment.
Yeah.
And we lived there, and we're fine.
We lived.
I know exactly what you mean because it's the same thing for me with work. And people are like, I'm like, yeah, like it's awesome. It's never like I've literally never had a problem, and I know tons of different people from different backgrounds and that work down there. And
Yeah.
same, no issues.
All right. So you're pretty young now, but when you were younger,
I appreciate that.
you're welcome. Has your perception of Johnstown always been a positive one, or did you, when you were younger, did you want to maybe leave, branch out a little bit, maybe see where different trails or states led you?
Yeah, no, I would say probably when I was younger-ish, like early teenager, I definitely found that it's so boring. I'm a whiny kid for sure. I'll admit that. But on the flip side, like growing up, I had friends who were like, can't wait till I'm 18. I can't wait till I graduate. Friends or even just, kids in my class or I can't
Can't wait to leave.
Yeah.
Get out.
That was our tagline.
Yeah, even if it was just to Pittsburgh,
Yeah.
or even further. And I never felt that. And like I've been around the country, and I'm like, Johnstown's got a slow pace of life, and that's just that's eventually like. As I got, I went to school here. I stayed home and went to UPJ, and thankfully I did because I saved a ton of money doing that.
Yeah.
And then I was able to work through college too, which helped. But no, and eventually I was like, this place has a lot of positives, and that's how kind of circle back to talking about my work and all that. That's what kind of led me to be like, I want to do something. I kind of always knew I wanted to be involved in the community in some way, just give back to everybody around me. Never really knew what that path looked like, so I just kind of let it meandered for sure.
Yeah.
But I let it find its course. I mean, that's just been my approach is overall, like I've just been happy to be here. I think it didn't take long for me to realize the positives and realize, they really strongly overweigh the negatives.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to be here.
So was there anything that did, I know because you kind of briefed over a little bit, was there anything in your life that kind of did make you grow and appreciate Johnstown a little bit more growing up? Or did you just kind of work and kind of settled in? It's kind of like you just eventually over time saw the great positives of being in Johnstown.
Yeah, it's probably that. It just kind of all caught on. And I think getting involved in the community and giving back instead of just staying in your own lane, threw myself out of my comfort zone a little bit.
Yeah.
Found different stuff and realized there's all these people who care and are giving back and just good people. I've said that a bunch already as we were chatting just about good. And I think that was it. And just like I said, I've been around the country, visited different places and spent time like I mentioned, I have family in Arizona, which I think the West is gorgeous. Arizona, they've taken me to Sedona and the Red Rocks and stuff. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's totally different. But ultimately, the pace of life in a city like that is just insanely fast. That just didn't work for me. And I would say, if anything, that's maybe the biggest thing. It's Johnstown's kind of, I'm going to call it a sleepy mountain town, but I mean sleepy in a good way.
Yeah.
There's still,
Not
I don't want to
overwhelming.
counteract everything we've talked about for the last half hour or so because there's so much to do and so much to enjoy. But it's you don't need to build an extra 2 hours into your day because you're going to be stuck on the freeway. My daily commute is 7 minutes if I hit the lights on Broad Street.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the little things like that. And again, the outdoors stuff is really important to me. I love it. It's my best friend. He grew up and eventually he moved away. He lives in Boise right now.
Yeah, Boise State Broncos.
What's that?
Boise State Broncos.
Yeah. So, it's different for him. I remember the one time he came back here after he'd been gone for a couple of years. We went for a hike and he's just like, it's so nice to hike under a tree cover again, man. I'm like, yeah, even that stuff weighs in on me.
It's the little things.
Yeah, for sure.
I think part of it too is that you've actually gotten to go and experience different things. So, different states and countries, like you said, but the people around here that have grown up here and never even got to go see Idaho or Arizona or wherever, they've just been stuck here. So, this is all they know. And they know Johnstown's negative. So, they don't know anything worse than Johnstown being the absolute worst place. So, do you think traveling has played a part in your perspective at all, too?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's definitely perspective and what's relative and what's not. I agree with that. And, on the flip side, too, you see, and I know some people who are like, can't wait to get out of here, can't wait to get out of here. And they run away, and then they just have the exact same personality in a different state, in a different city.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay.
It's
Like,
just you.
like yeah. Like, I don't know if you get it yet, but that's what it is.
I also just think it's age. I think the more you age, the older you get, the more you different value things. Like
Yeah, for sure.
being able to buy a house. And,
Ding.
Yeah.
and just
Ding.
being
Yeah,
able to
I mean,
live.
that's the other thing. I mean, for everything Johnstown has, it's super cheap. I own a house. Well, I'm not technically in the city. I'm literally on the city line just over in Lower Yoder. Shout out to our tiny township. But, I bought a house 6 years ago. And I know from friends that have moved away and all that what I paid for my house is a down payment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somewhere else in the country.
Our friends, we tell them how much we paid. They're like, what?
Yeah, exactly. I've heard a lot of stories, especially since the COVID pandemic and that, of people who did that, have remote work or whatever. And they're like, I like hiking. I like riding the kayak and the paddleboard out of Queen Mahoming or whatever. I'll do that. And they move here because they don't need to go in an office at all. And the cost of living is that much cheaper.
Yeah.
So I think it is attractive to a lot of people for that reason. I mean, there's still tons of great stuff.
All right, well, we can wrap it up
Yeah.
here. I feel like it's been long. I feel like we had a really good interview. So, real quick, before we wrap it up, I want to, something new, since you love Johnstown so
Okay.
much and you're invested in the good people. I would say wrap up Johnstown in like 30 seconds of like
Oh.
how you see it.
Oh, man.
Show your passion.
You didn't tell me this was coming. I probably would have needed to prepare some bullet points. In a positive light, sleepy mountain town. The big thing I think of in Johnstown is like, if you're creative or anything in that regard, there's a ton to do here. I mean, I think it's a great place. You enjoy the outdoors, any sort of outdoor recreation, whether you're a hunter or a fisherman, because there's all that. And hiking, all that, or any sort of creative stuff. I think there's a really vibrant art scene in the city. I know Pittsburgh has one too. I think, that connection is still really strong right there. Like, there's tons of great music and different kinds of visual artists and stuff here. I think, what's the old slogan? Did you guys see this week there's that viral song, the Johnstown song, that was going around?
She found it? Did you
I
talk-
saw a small clip of it. I don't think I've listened to the whole thing yet. but-
Yeah, it's short. It's just a reel. What's the guy's name? Like Saxman Billy or something, And it's like, flood's over. Come back to Johnstown.
Oh, yeah.
Poking fun at that old thing. But I'm like, I kind of agree. I mean, there's just good, down to earth people here. Everybody tries, and there's so many that make a difference. Everybody that's been on this show before me, I listened to a bunch of the old episodes. I recognize and knew a bunch of those people, and I'm like, there's a ton of great people here.
There's a ton of
and I'm
great
sure you guys are
positive
gonna have dozens after, coming in
Yeah.
after me.
We're hoping so.
We're hoping.
Yeah.
We're trying
That's
to
one
show
of our
that.
goals for this year.
Yeah, we're trying to show there is positive people
Yeah,
around here.
you are who you surround yourself with. If you
Yeah.
want to hang
Yep.
out with the negative Nancys of Johnstown, you go do that. Go somewhere else.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of great people doing great things, like yourself. In
Like
this town.
Cook, like Quinn Britt, like DJ Zabrick.
Yeah. That's
Camilla.
at the baseline, that's what it is. It's a great little town. There's a lot of great people doing great stuff, and that's why I love outlets and avenues like this, where hopefully somebody's out there listening, or a bunch of people are listening, and they hear me mention something that they didn't know about, and that pulls somebody to a place they've never been, and that starts something. That's all you can really hope for with something like this.
Not to be negative, not to spit, but we do need a new slogan. The flood is over. It needs to go. The flood's 100 years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been over.
Yeah, it's
Well,
been
if
over.
you listen to some people, they'll say, we're not overdue, we're due,
Yeah.
which I hope not.
All right, Tyler, thank you for coming on. It's a blast interviewing and
Yeah,
doing this
thank
whole
you.
episode. Thank you. It was very nice learning about different parks, learning about CASA, learning about what you do for volunteering, everything like that.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for having me, guys. And if I can, just shout out to wrap up, I'm on the board at Stackhouse Park. We're online, Facebook, Instagram. Find our website, stackhousepark.com. Also, CASA the Laurel Highlands. Also, find us on Facebook or look up our website on Beginnings Inc. if you're interested in volunteering, or you're a parent or have a young family or interested in getting involved, some enrichment and some support.
Thank you very much. All right, that's our episode. I'm Nick.
I'm Jenny.
Sorry, this is Tyler. Thank you very much for coming on again.
Thanks, guys.